Jason Adams. He's an aerospace research analyst at Nomura International. Joins me now. Jason, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. And is this, in fact, Airbus's golden moment? Is this their way into the lucrative US market?
Well, I think indeed this is a watershed moment for Airbus. American Airlines hasn't ordered an Airbus aircraft since 1987, and what this deal proves is that the A320neo is good enough to make a large all-Boeing customer switch to Airbus, despite the efficiencies of operating a fleet of single-aisle aircraft. So, in the North American market is very large, and there's incredible demand to replace old aircraft, and so this puts Airbus in a very good position to continue to take market share from Boeing.
So how soon then do you expect other airlines to follow in American Airlines' steps, if you like?
Well, we're in the interesting position right now for the commercial aircraft manufacturers. Demand incredibly exceeds supply, and the line, or the queue, if you will, for a new aircraft is something close to 6 to 7 years for a number of models. And so if you're an airline who hasn't ordered in some time, I think in the next within the next 2 years, you really have to be thinking long term about your fleet expansion strategy. So I think orders could be strong for the next 2 years.
Okay, and Boeing for more than a year now has been sort of struggling on making a decision about how to counter Airbus's re-engine A320. How much pressure does this put on Boeing now to sort of remodel or update their latest technology?
Well, yes, Boeing has been passive in this decision, and I think the Paris Air Show was a wake-up call, where the Airbus A320 got more than 600 orders and the Boeing 737 got less than 100. And now it's being reported that as part of this deal, Boeing is going to, for the first time, offer a re-engine version of the 737. Now, if this is true, this is a reactionary decision by Boeing and confirms the market impact the A320neo is having. But I do think this is the right, or at least the lower risk option for Boeing, because if they would have won an all-new aircraft, that gives Airbus until 2020 to take market share with the neo. And from an investor's point of view, the investment for a re-engineering is going to be something closer to $2 billion US dollars, as opposed to the $10 billion it would have cost to invest in an all-new aircraft.
Okay, so Jason, from what you're saying, the stakes are high for Boeing, Airbus emerging in pole position here. And you mentioned the recent Paris Air Show. And one thing that emerged from that was sort of supply chain stresses, if you like, with a lot of leading executives worrying about their ability to meet surging demand. So what can you tell me about production rates for both Boeing and Airbus? Is this going to be a problem going forward?
Well, yes, we're very bullish on the commercial aerospace sector right now, especially relative to other industrial end markets. But the supply chain, as you point out, is the major concern. So I think although demand is there to increase production beyond 42 or 44 aircraft per month, both Boeing and especially Airbus have to be careful in managing this conservatively, because the supply chain is managing the buildup at Airbus and Boeing, but they've also got to develop a number of programs such as the A350, still some work on the 787, and don't forget there's some defense programs ramping up like the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter and the A400M. So the supply chain is very stretched, and so once again that's the biggest risk in the sector right now. And
just a very quick one, what about, so how is Airbus going to deal with this? What is this going to mean? More factories in Europe, opening factories in the US?
I think it would be a little bit too expensive to open a new factory in the US. Once again, if they would have won the US tanker competition, that would have given them a platform there. But I think they'll look to expand capacity in Europe. And don't forget, they have a 737 final assembly line in China. And so can they expand that? And you can believe that the cost of manufacturing there is lower than it is in Europe or the US.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. Jason Adams of Nomura, good to get your thoughts.